Hi everyone, welcome to the session. Please confirm if you can hear me clearly. All right, that's great. Thank you so much. All right, so today we are going to attempt another past exam from June 2019, sample exam. It's called SmartWear. So it's a good case study, a very different case study from the one we did yesterday. And offers you quite a lot of different topics to revise. And yeah, so we will be starting it, but before we start officially, I would want to keep like 2-3 minutes for any questions you may have from yesterday. Also, please check the handouts. So today again, you have the question paper, you have the answer for today's case study, as well as you have the examiner report for this case study. Can you all please confirm if you can see all these handouts, the questions, the answers, and the examiner report? Now there is another handout, which is at the top, named as answer sheet. So this is the annotated sheet from yesterday's session. So if you are interested in that answer sheet, which I was filling during the session yesterday, here it is. You can download and keep it and use it. All right, now I gave you a little bit of homework. So how many of you have actually read the standard answers and the examiner report? Just give me a quick indication through the chat window if you have read the answers, the marking scheme, and the examiner's report. Okay, that's great, Fiza, Alana, Gagan, great. Okay, so if you're not able to cover that yet, you still have time, do cover it. So do you think that those documents were helpful? Yeah, so that is for sure. So examiners vocabulary is very rich. We can never reach that level of vocabulary and length of the answers, but it's okay. You just make sense of the points, that would be enough. But comparatively, examiner report is written in a simpler language, isn't it? Yeah. So every day we'll have to renew our motivation, isn't it, Kagan? Yeah, but I think that this June 2009, is it available in CB platform of ACCA? I'm not sure, but if yes, that's great. You can solve it there as well. All right, guys, so some of you were asking me yesterday about how you can get the feedback on your attempted, um, you know, papers. So we at Scans do have a product where we offer students 5 different assessments, 1 mock exam and 4 assignments, 2 of which are 100 marks worth and 2 of them are 50 marks worth for SBL. So if you are interested in that product, so we give you the question, we give you a deadline, you have to solve and submit it on the ACCA-like platform, the CBE, and we'll mark your script and give you the detailed feedback on that. So if you're interested, do let me know. My email address, let me mention that. So some of you, those who are actually self-studying, so some students wanted me to tell them some options. So my email ID is fasihascans@outlook.com. So if you want to know more about this product, you can email and ask me here. Okay. Now it's time to get to the case study. All right, Furkan, the plan is to cover TT4U case study tomorrow, so don't worry about it. Let's do this one today, one case study at a time, one day at a time. All right. Okay. Past webinars, June, March, April, and the briefing paper. Okay, so Elena, I think we should stick to what the examiner's format is for the briefing notes, because to, from, date, and subject is a very typical format for report, memorandum, and email. So can we like stick to what the examiner is telling us? Because at the end of the day, examiner is suggesting the way the exam is being marked. So I think let's stick to that. Fiza, I won't be marking those scripts if you know, opt for that product. I won't be marking it, but we work with a team of very trained markers. So they mark, very exam level marking is done, and you know, you can also have a conversation with the marker at the end of the session. But if you are based in another country, then we'll have to make this arrangement maybe through a WhatsApp call or something, right? So do email me if you're interested, and we'll talk about it more. All right. So let's start the case study. I think most of the participants have joined by now. Let me confirm. Yeah. So SmartWear March 2019 case study. All right, pens and papers ready? Or maybe, you know, your laptops with a Word document all set? Because I will want you to make your own summary as we are discussing the requirements. The requirements in this particular case study are comprehensive, might take a little bit longer, but let's see if we are able to make sense of the requirements. All right. So can you please confirm if you're ready with a pen and paper, or maybe your laptop, or maybe some form of document where you are going to make the summary? Yes? Ready? Great. So again, today I'm using the PDF version. I will soon go to the computer-based version of the exam, because these two exams which I did yesterday and this one is not available on ACCA platform for me, for the tutor's view. So I will see if the tomorrow's case study is available. I'll do that, but I know for sure that the recent attempt and recent case study is definitely available. So last session is definitely going to be more about exploring computer-based exam, but a quick demo, right? The rest you can do practice on ACCA platform, etc. Okay, so March, June 2019, a nice case study, but very different from what we did yesterday. So yesterday we covered the industry, which is construction company, right? Road construction, right? Mainly. And today it's a clothing retail business. So I'm going to read the introduction. Okay, everyone, please, I need 100% attention here. Stop doing whatever you're doing. Stop thinking anything else. Stop using your phones. Okay, SmartWear is a long established clothing retailer in Noria, a highly developed Northern European country, which is currently in the middle of deep economic recession. So much information already. That SmartWear is a company based in Noria, home country, which is a developed European country. However, currently they are facing some economic problems, recession. The country is also experiencing political uncertainty because of its coalition government, whom many influential commentators believe will not last for its full term of office. These two factors have contributed to record high levels of unemployment, low business confidence, and a steady decline in the standard of living of general population. The company also operates in two other countries of in two other countries on the European continent, Southland, etc. Okay, guys, I told you in the very first session also that I'm highlighting the entire paragraph only to tell you or indicate that where exactly I'm reading from. You don't have to underline everything in the exam, only the relevant information. So I have some relevant information here that there is high level of employment, low business confidence, and yes, steady decline in the standard of living. Can I also assume that the disposable incomes must be falling, which leads to low decline in the standard of living, right? All right, guys. Smartwear has enjoyed long-term business success mainly due to the fact that it has carefully positioned itself towards the lower end of clothing retail sector. Lower end means the product price is not very high. It sources its product directly from the supplier in low-cost economies, and it has been able to target a mass market with consistently low prices. This has meant that during the recent economic downturn in Noria, it has been able to profit from the growing number of price-sensitive consumers who have switched from the more high end of the clothing retail market to budget retailers like Smartwear, who are the market leader in this high volume market. So far the question is telling us that because of the recession and the growth in price sensitive consumers, Smartwear company was able to take benefit from it because already they were selling the low cost products. However, they're facing some problems. Next paragraph tells you about that. So Smartwear's long-term strategy has always been based on low cost, low price business model. So that's their business strategy, low price, low cost, which is described through its mission statement and goals. However, following a prolonged period of expansion and growth, including successfully penetrating several other European markets, the company is for the first time experiencing a market downturn in both its operational and financial performance. So they're telling you that currently the company is facing all these operational and financial issues. This appears to be in part due to economic pressure and the growing intensity of competition in all of its markets, both at home and abroad. At a recent board meeting to discuss the latest set of disappointing financial results, it was proposed that an external consultant be appointed to investigate the deteriorating performance of Smartwear and propose the best way forward to the company. You are the external consultant engaged by Smartwear, and you have gathered the following information to help you with your assignment. So again, here is your role throughout the case study. So yesterday we had a different role in every requirement, but in this case study, in this past paper, you have one role for all requirements. So that's the variety you can expect in SBL exams. So there are 6 exhibits again, but please don't think that it is a standard in your actual this in some other past exams there are more than 6 exhibits as well. So maybe 7, maybe 8, whatever is given, you'll have to read it, whether there are 6 exhibits or 8 exhibits, right? Okay. Requirements now. So everyone, please get ready, make your summary along. It is apparent that the downturn in Smartwear performance can be in part attributed to external factors beyond company's control. A recent national newspaper article further confirms that economic situation in Noria has made trading conditions tough for the business. Therefore, a good understanding of those external environmental factors. So in this paragraph, it's very clearly written external factors. So the paragraphs which are above the requirement are relevant to understand the requirement. Do you guys know that? So you'll have to read these 2 paragraphs carefully to understand and make sense of your requirement even more. So don't overlook or don't undermine the importance of these 2 paragraphs which are above the requirement. Okay. So therefore, a good understanding of those external environmental factors negatively affecting the Smartwear business model is essential so that action can be taken to remedy the current situation and improve the future prospects for the company and its investors. The board of Smartwear wants to fully understand how the general environment is impacting on the company, as this will directly influence its ability to enable the business to succeed and prosper. The board has asked you to brief the board on this issue for their next board meeting. All right. Requirement specifically is to prepare briefing paper. Here is my format, which needs to be followed in order to get full professional skills marks. So prepare briefing paper to be presented at the next board meeting, which covers two parts. A, analyze the environment in which SmartWear operates and consider how this might impact its business model, mission, and goals. So analyze the environment. Which environment they are referring to? The first part of the requirement is to analyze the environment, but can I say external factors mainly? Because the paragraphs above are telling us that story of external factors. So analyze the external factors, and you have to consider how those factors are going to impact the goals and mission of the business. So that's the second part of the requirement, that for each factor you will have to tell the impact on the goals of the company. So do we know the goals of the company? Not yet, but they are given in one of the exhibits. So we'll have to figure out from the information what the goals are and how external factors are impacting the goals of the company. All right. How many points? So minimum 5 points to get 10 marks. But what if I forget about connecting my external factors with the goals and missions of the business? Can I say that I will lose half the marks maybe? So out of the total possible 10 marks, I might lose 4 or 5 marks straight away. So every part of the requirement is important. Next part of the briefing paper will have to assess the major risks presented by SmartWear business model. And so that's our first task, and suggest appropriate mitigating actions to manage those risks. So you assess, identify, and assess those risks. Assessment means discuss the impact on the company, and then you suggest how we can reduce or mitigate those risks, what actions we should take, right? So again, 5 risks can be discussed here. Half the marks are for assessment and half the marks are for mitigating the risk. So both requirements A and B have 2 parts in it. Professional skills marks are available for evaluation scale by assessing the identified risk at SmartWear objectively. So if you can specifically highlight the risks which are the major risk of SmartWear, and at the same time, if the mitigating actions you suggest are according to the situation of SmartWear, and if they're practical, you will get these 4 marks as well. So for 24 marks, you have 48 minutes to write your answer, just like we discussed yesterday. Next requirement, I think this first requirement is pretty straightforward. Yes or no? I mean, there's a lot of work to do, but still, no, it's not. Okay. So Niranjan, can you please tell me if there is anything which you're not able to understand? And in this question, professional skills marks are for requirement B only. They do not belong to A, but we will still explain the points in part A properly. Yeah, of course, there's a lot of things to take care of, but basic idea, I hope, is clear to everyone now. Okay, so Neil is asking that for question number 1, part B, can we use a tabular format? So guys, what do you have to say about this? Can we use a tabular form? What did I tell you yesterday? If examiner specifically ask you for a summary, or if examiner specifically ask you to use some visual aids or use a table, then only you use a table. Otherwise, you should write the answer in paragraph form, because that's the professional way of writing the answers. Okay? Absolutely. So you can't make a table for that. Ideally, you shouldn't. Okay, second requirement, everyone. So the board is becoming aware that Noria, the home country, right? Noria may not be the suitable country that it was 15 years ago for a business like Smartwear to operate successfully in. The financial performance of Smartwear in Southland is significantly better than being achieved in more established homeland of Noria. So they are operating in another country, Southland, and they're saying that they're doing better in Southland than Noria, or it's other European markets like Centrum. So the board has asked you to help them understand why this is the case. To help with this task, you have gathered summarized information on the country of Southland, where Smartwear opened its first retail outlet 6 years ago, together with comparative data for Noria and neighboring country of Centrum. So again, I will have to wait and find out where this comparative data is given. So in one of the exhibits. So you'll have to wait. Okay, the company now has 30 retail outlets in all major towns and cities across the country of Southland, where the economy is booming and Southland generates the most of Smartwear's revenue as a national market after Norway. Prepare a report for the board in which you, part A, analyze the company's strategic position in Southland market to determine why this is important, why Smartwear appears to be performing so well in this particular country compared to Noria. Which country? Southland. So you will have to explain the factors, the reasons why Smartwear is doing better in Southland as compared to Noria. So we'll be comparing it with Noria naturally because the requirement asks us to do so, but main emphasis will be to figure out what is going so well in Southland. Yes? So country specific factor needs to be discussed. Now, what are the factors in Southland which suit the company so much that it's successful? So what are we going to do here? We'll be talking about mostly positive aspects of Southland, or negative, or both. Read the requirement and then tell me. Only positives, only negatives, both positives, negatives of Southland. Mainly, okay, Ikra says positive. Some people says both, but most of the students are saying positive only. Yes, analysis needs to be done, of course, analyze, but read the entire thing. You'll have to talk about positives here mainly. And how do I know that? Please read it with me again. Analyze the company's strategic position in Southland market to determine why Smartwear appears to be performing so well in this country. So there must be some positive going on. That's why we are successful. That's why we are performing so well. Can I say there is something negative? That's why I'm performing well. So guys, it's positives mostly. And of course, the data is presented in a way that you are naturally going to be picking up the positives of Southland as compared to Noria. So Southland is ahead of Noria for certain factors. Okay, now and yes, a little bit negative. Of course, the information is given in a way that it will naturally take you to do this. Is this clear now? Especially those who think that negatives are to be considered too. Okay. But what if I write positive aspects and in the exam I write 1 or 2 negatives? It's okay. It's okay. You have margin to make mistakes in the exam, right? Okay. Professional skills marks. Okay, guys, there is a model which can be used as well. But again, I do not want to tell you that models are super important. They are not actually. It's optional to use models or not. Use half the model, not use the models at all, or fully use the models. That's your choice. And it also depends if we are able to remember the models and also if it clicks, right? So there's Porter's diamond model, which can be used because Porter's diamond model is used to evaluate the country specific factors which contribute to the success of a company or an industry. How many of you know the Porter's diamond model? Not that you must apply it here, just saying. Yeah. So you can apply those concepts if you want to. But main focus is going to be what's going on so well in Southland, which is making this company successful. Professional skills marks are available for demonstrating analysis skills in determining Smartware's strategic position in Southland market. So of course, by picking up the relevant information and explaining our points, we are going to get these marks. Second part of the report will be the board agreed that the radical response to the current situation was required to reassure investors and the stock market by showing them the Smartware board remained in control of the business and was willing to take essential action when necessary. The board decided that company needed to rationalize its operations by closing the 20 worst performing retail outlet in Noria and withdrawing entirely from neighboring country of Centrum, where Smartware 15 retail outlets were all suffering heavy losses and showing absolutely no sign of recovery. So guys, here they're talking about shutting down some of the outlets in Noria and all the outlets in Centrum. So what are we supposed to discuss? We have to evaluate the strategic and ethical implications. So number one, strategic, number two, ethical implications to Smartware of the planned shop closures in Noria and the withdrawal from Centrum. So just be careful. Do not overemphasize on ethical issues only. Talk about strategic issues. Can you tell me generally, guys, very quickly, any strategic and any ethical issue which normally is linked to when company, shut down operations or stores here? Anything which comes to mind? Let's talk about ethical first. Just one. People will lose jobs. Absolutely. That's the ethical issue, right? And what do you think is the strategic issue? Ikra says loss of revenue, but Ikra, these outlets are suffering losses. So I don't think that they are already relying on these stores for revenues. Yeah, so strategic issue can be redundancy and legal issues, right? Loss of skilled labor, very good point. Reputation loss, very, very good. Basas, I really like the way you're thinking. So reputation loss, as in the perception of the company that this company is shutting down the operations. Maybe they are going to, just they're closing down. So overall perception and reputation of the company in this way, it's a big strategic issue. And also what else? Economies of scale might be lost. Very good point. Because you're shrinking down your operation, so demand will be affected, and maybe the bulk purchase discounts, etc. It can affect your relationship with supplier as well, because now you're ordering lesser, maybe. And then there is a social factor also. Absolutely, you can say that the stores were the part of the community, and now the stores are being shut down, so it will have a social impact as well. So even without reading the entire case study, we can talk about these points. So this is the type of the requirement where we should work really carefully to get maybe full marks, easy marks. So there are 12 marks. I'll be discussing 6 points at least, or maybe more, depending on how many I can think of. But the balance of strategic issues and ethical issues needs to be maintained. Okay, professional skills marks are available for skepticism to underlying issues and problems which may arise from this strategic decision. So maybe you can think about some positive aspects as well, because this question is not restricting you to talk about negatives only, but naturally when you close down the stores and operations, there are more negatives than positives. So the 2 marks, and this requirement is a total of 24 marks, 48 minutes for you to write. Yeah. Any questions so far? So what do you have to say here, Niranjan? Am I pronouncing your name all right? Niranjan. I think it's the pronunciation. Okay. So do you think that this requirement is better understandable than the first one? It was a little complicated. This one seems simpler, but because they can get you, straightforward marks, so I'll have to be equally vigilant here, right? And I'm not going to give any chances to lose marks here because that's my chance to pick up most marks and, and this will effectively contribute to me passing the exam. Yeah. So diversification risk is there that when um, are entirely closing down your operations in Centrum, so you are reducing the diversification and you're increasing the risk like that, going against opposite to diversification. So you're right, Ikra. Okay, requirement 3. Let's see if you guys could figure it out on your own. So let me read it and let me ask you, what am I supposed to do in this requirement? So third requirement says that the executive summary of an internal audit report on Smartware's supply chain management has been given to you by the chair of the audit committee. The report identified a number of significant issues in areas such as appraisal of existing suppliers' performance and internal reporting provision. On behalf of the board of directors, the chair of the audit committee has asked you to provide the buying and merchandising director with an objective appraisal of the supply chain management arrangements at Smartware to effectively address the various issues raised in this report. So specific requirement is to draft a memo. So that's my format. So same format which we discussed yesterday as well. So draft a memo to the buying and merchandising director. So he is your audience, which evaluates whether it is fine or not. So which evaluates the effectiveness of internal control systems at the company. So that's my first task, to evaluate effectiveness of the systems. So I'll have to read the relevant exhibit to know the systems, right? Particularly on the procurement side. So you'll have to talk about the procurement internal control system effectiveness. And what's the second part? Recommend control improvements to rectify the identified areas of concern. So now this sounds like that there are problems and you have to give recommendations for each of the problem here. There are 12 marks available. Now this is an interesting question because in the exhibit, there are actually 3 to 4 problems highlighted. So for 3 to 4 problems, we cannot possibly get 12 marks, generally speaking, right? So here the marking scheme says that 2 marks per point are available for discussing the control problem and explaining it. And 2 marks per point are available for recommending control improvements. So you'll have to explain the problem and the recommendation like really well in order to get to that 2 + 2, 4 marks per point. Is that clear? So this marking scheme is a little off or different from general 2 marks per point, but you see that there are 2 different aspects, 2 different things that are to be discussed. And also one more thing, that when you read the exhibit, it's very clear that there are 3 problems mainly discussed. So you can't make internal control problems on your own by taking assumptions, right? Okay, professional skills marks are available for commercial acumen skills when recommending solutions to those issues highlighted in the internal audit report. So commercial acumen marks will be available for good relevant recommendations. 16 marks, 32 minutes. Requirement 4. Now requirement 4 is an interesting one. So this is about customer relationship management. And the story behind this requirement goes like, recently commissioned market research has concluded that Smartware appears to have no clear understanding of the profile of its customer mix, and as a result operate quite unsophisticated and ineffective marketing campaigns. Recent financial results indicate that Smartware is finding it hard to both retain and get repeat business from existing customers, and the company is clearly losing market share to both established competition and new e-retailers. So that's the problem they're facing. They're not able to engage and retain the customers. The sales and marketing director have been considering the development and implementation of a sophisticated customer database management system, CDMS. So this is the new system they are considering to implement. And what is the system? Incorporating a customer loyalty scheme. So it will have some scheme which is called the loyalty scheme to replace the existing very basic customer database. So they're going to have a more sophisticated software and a system to manage the customers, keep the data. So what may be the features of a very advanced customer database management system? I'm just generally asking. It's not very relevant to the requirement. So any sophisticated customer management system, what kind of features it may have? So anyone who could tell me anything? So the first thing will be, proper data maintained about customers. Then it will have, yes, artificial intelligence. And what will be the implications of that? So, Olu, would you please tell me? Yeah, it will help with the analysis to identify the trends, the patterns and behavior of the customer, how it is changing, how frequently it is changing, what are the needs of the customer. So it will have inbuilt, sort of research going on in it, as well as it will be able to identify the specific preferences of individual customers, and then it can help us have proper marketing strategy. It can help us with key important decisions. It can help us improve our product according to customers. So a lot of things can be, taken care of. So these sophisticated systems use big data and data analytics concepts, right? Yeah. So all of it, which you guys, it helps us to manage the marketing mix, strategic planning, marketing, promotions. So all that can be done through having a good system, right? So this is what this company is aiming for as well. The marketing department, I'm reading it further. So the marketing department has undertaken a financial appraisal of this proposal to supplement the market research findings, and this indicate that it is financially viable in net present value terms. You have advised the sales and marketing director that for the board to agree to the proposal, a clearly stated business case, more reliable evaluation of the financial viability of the project will be needed. She agreed and asked you to help her in this regard. Requirement is to write a report on behalf of sales and marketing director for presentation to the board, which achieves both of the following. Number one, describes the benefits of introducing a customer database management system, including loyalty scheme for Smartware. So simple benefits of this kind of system. But of course, you will give your ideas, but please don't forget to connect it with Smartware. And sometimes the only connection one can make by giving their idea is to use the name of the company. So that works. So for example, if you talk about customized promotions and customized marketing, you can add that Smartware can take benefit of customized marketing, etc. Right? So connection with the company and the information is important. But it's a very simple, straightforward requirement. So for 6 marks, I might be doing 3 to 4 points. Professional skills marks are available for commercial acumen skills by demonstrating awareness of business and wider external factors impacting on the decision to implementing CDMS. Yeah, so which means that we need to have a broader aspect, broader knowledge of how these kind of systems may help. Requirement B, that's interesting, because we did this kind of question on day 1. Evaluate the marketing department's NPV analysis. So there is some NPV analysis in one of the exhibits, and you have to evaluate it. Evaluate means whatever is right, you say it's right, and whatever doesn't seem very right, you show skepticism and you ask for more information, or you just say that it's wrong and give your reasons. The logical reason has to be there. So evaluate the marketing department's NPV analysis that supports the CDSMS investment, questioning any underlying assumptions made. So we'll have to figure out what information we have and then we'll discuss it. 10 marks are here. One thing I know for sure that I'll have to talk about 5 to 6 points in total. And professional skills marks here are available for skepticism about the cash flow forecast used to support the proposal. So you're already given a prepared NPV analysis and you're going to kind of demonstrate your skepticism. Do you remember the question from day one? Same business case and NPV. So it's the similar kind of question. However, the figures, some of the financial management concepts that are used are different. It's a very different project. The figures are different, assumptions are different, but kind of in the same direction. Are these requirements clear? Please confirm so that we could move on to the final requirement. So yesterday's case study had 4 requirements. This case study has 5 very comprehensive requirements. All right, last requirement. An examiner says that it was not well taken care of by students. And there were 2 reasons. Number 1, it was a little tricky. So that's why I always suggest to cover the entire syllabus and don't leave anything, because examiner can test you for anything. So it's a very classic example of examiner testing you for very simple yet very smaller topics as well. And secondly, because it's the last requirement, so time management was an issue. So within little time, the students did not make a good effort to answer this question. This is what the examiner reports say, but let's see what this question is about. It's on integrated reporting, but it's a little tricky, honestly. Let's see if we are able to find out. So it says that severe criticism was forwarded to the chairman of Smartware from an influential institutional shareholder about what is perceived as the short-sighted and narrow focus of the board on the low-cost, low-price business model. What is short-sighted and narrow focus? Narrow focus means that they are not taking care of all the aspects, multiple aspects, and short-sighted is like short-termism, that they're only focusing on short-term results. Maybe, so you know, the institutional investor is criticizing the chairman for this. However, the board considers this criticism to be unjustified. So board of Smartware thinks that this criticism is not fair, since its focus has always been on the wider and long-term strategic interest of Smartware that has enabled it to achieve sustainable business growth. The board believes the most probable reason for the criticism is the lack of understanding by certain investors of Smartware business rationale and company's integrated thinking. So board thinks that our investors, our shareholders do not understand our broader integrated thinking. To further improve the effectiveness of communication with investors and wider stakeholders community, the board of Smartware decided to adopt its own version of integrated reporting framework. The board unanimously agreed that best results would be achieved when the company takes a more holistic view of its operations and performance. So you are tasked to brief the board on how to make this message clearer to investors. What does the holistic view actually means? Having a holistic view of operations and performance. What does that even mean? So it means comprehensive, how different areas are connected to each other, a bigger picture. Yeah, so full view, bigger picture, considering all stakeholders, so all of this, right? Now, requirement specifically is that you have been asked by CFO to help him make the case and persuade the board, not just the board, also his own finance team, that integrated thinking and integrated reporting framework should be adopted at Smartware. So prepare one slide, just one slide, with appropriate notes, the speaker notes, the explanation of the bullet points of the slide, for a brief presentation to be given by CFO at the next board meeting, which describes the benefits of integrated thinking within Smartware to all stakeholders. Now, this is not a requirement which is very difficult. You have to talk about the benefits of integrated thinking, which means that how the organization create value for different stakeholders, for different aspects, for example, environment, for example, society, for example, employees, how the organization is creating value, how stakeholder claims are satisfied, how interlinkage between all these elements are taken care of. So basically, you'll have to explain the benefits of having an integrated thinking, that we take care of so many things together. Yeah, so benefits of having a bigger picture in front of you, not just profits, but also non-financial aspects and broader external factors like social factors and environmental factors. So the idea behind integrated reporting. Is this requirement clear? And you can see that there are 6 marks available for one slide. So you can have like 4 to 5 or 6 possible bullet points advantages, and then you can explain those 4 or 5 advantages, maybe 5 one by one in the speaker notes. But this is something, the audience for this particular slide is who? All stakeholders. So we have to be very generic in our discussion. I mean, we should be talking about the benefits to stakeholders one by one, rather than using very specific finance terminologies. Please confirm if this requirement is clear. And please take care of the audience. You are addressing this slide for making it for all stakeholders, to make them understand what you believe in. Yes, there are professional skills marks for both requirements together at the end, Kagan. Is this clear? So now to answer this question well, you need to have a proper understanding of what integrated reporting is. Okay, second requirement is to prepare briefing paper for CFO to allow him to address the wider finance team. Now the audience has changed from stakeholders to finance team. So now CFO is addressing his own team, which are finance people, to explain how corporate reporting using IR framework provide more relevant information for SmartWear shareholders about the creation of sustainable long-term value. So normally when we have to tell the shareholders that we are creating value for them, that mostly means, the value of the company, the capital the company has, right? So here, how would we be able to tell finance team members that how we are creating value for shareholders? So what should I do here? What should I talk about here? Any idea? So you have to tell how corporate reporting provides more relevant information. Corporate reporting using integrated reporting provides more relevant information. How? By highlighting 6 capitals. We highlight companies' capitals or assets in 6 different angles. So human capital, manufactured capital, all 6 capitals. So that's what needs to be discussed here. So what's the difference between A and B? In A, we are telling about the general idea of integrated thinking, not the format, not the capitals, because we are talking to all stakeholders. And in part B, we are talking to finance team, so they will be able to understand the 6 capital language, as well as it is the format of integrated reporting. So, finance team will be better able to understand that. So you will discuss 6 capitals here, one by one, and you will give relevant example of all capitals from SmartWear scenario. So don't give general example of human capital or intellectual capital, not general example, but specific SmartWear examples. And again, standard answer will help you. We'll also quickly discuss some points at the end, but now it's time to read the exhibits. Can we take a quick 5 minutes break before we start reading the exhibits to explore more about the case study? Okay, 5 minutes, and then we'll start the exhibits. Thank you very much. All right, can we start? All right, so Exhibit 1. So these are briefing notes prepared by the business development department for the consultant. And who's the consultant? It's you guys, right? So you are supposed to be the consultant for all requirements. Okay, so SmartWear mission statement is given. Our mission is to make wide range of good quality fashion, which is responsibly sourced, available to everyone at affordable prices. So that's the mission statement of the company. And then you have to achieve the mission, the board has agreed the following strategic goals. Number one, continued investment in all of our core markets that continue to offer significant growth opportunities to satisfy the needs and demands of low-cost products and services of all customers. So here the missions and goals are given. So do you think we need to like carefully read these goals and mission statement? Are they relevant to any given requirement where we specifically have to consider these objectives and goals and mission of the company? If yes, which requirement? Yeah, so we have to question number 1, part A, right? Excellent. So question number 1, part A is relevant. And what are we supposed to do? We have to connect the external factor with the goals, right? How the goals will be impacted. So can you tell me any of the external factor mentioned in the introduction which will have an impact on goal number 1? Let's see if you remember anything. Waiting for your answer. Okay, economic recession. So how it will impact this continuous need for investment and all. Okay, so it was mentioned that there is recession and that there is low business confidence. So when these things are going on, there's low business confidence. What happens? Would this business be able to continuously invest? So can we say that the external factor is that there's low business confidence that is adversely affecting the company? It's a threat and it is going to be affecting the objective of continuous growth because company cannot, because there's no business confidence. So this is how you have to connect the external factors with the objectives, but do explain the factors as well, whether they are threat and why they are threats. If they are opportunities, why do you think they are offering any opportunities? Okay, next goal is develop strong long-term relationship with our key suppliers based on mutual respect and serving each other's interest. So do you think any other external factor will impact this? Okay, I need participation here. Anything which you can think of? So having a good relationship with key suppliers. So this recession might impact the need to negotiate more about prices, isn't it? And maybe, less purchasing from suppliers, right? This is a relevant point. And also, um, so negotiating the prices and maybe not offering them fair prices, that can happen too. So this will all impact the relationship with our key suppliers. Now you don't have to link each factor with each goal. I'm just saying that you can connect some points with some goals, but not all goal, not you don't have to go one by one and cover all the goals. No, that is not the examiner asked for. Okay, functions with the highest ethical standards of social responsibility, expecting the same from all business partners. So there is going to be social impact, isn't it? Um, so some of the ethical standards might be, yeah. So Fiza, can you be specific here? How to construct answer? Okay, let's construct one point first. So can you write that there is low business confidence because of recession and because of this political instability? There's sense of uncertainty. So first you write this line. So without having confidence in political leadership, investors are less inclined to take the risk and invest their money. So this will have negative impact on goal number one, which is continuous investment. The company will not be able to keep up with this goal and will not be able to, keep on investing because of this situation. So this is how, Fiza, you can make up these points. So that's one point, but there are so many others. Now, there are economic factors like unemployment, right? Then there will be social factors and all. So as Elena said that we can use pestle model here, but connect those pestle factors with these goals. And also, Fiza, don't worry about it that you don't have to connect these factors with all the goals. So where you think they can fit in? Okay, the next goal is to maintain a successful and viable company that delivers healthy financial returns. So now, don't you think it's getting harder for the company to keep the financial returns coming in? Yeah, because of these economic factors. So again, economic factors can be connected here as well. And last is be a responsible custodian of the user of natural resources which are managed in a sustainable way. So there is no mention of any environmental factors. Okay, now guys, we have just read the introduction. There are external factors. There are more external factors coming up in one of the exhibits. So then you will be better able to connect them with these objectives. But do you understand that you can connect these factors with the goals here? Maybe a direct link, maybe an indirect impact on the goals. So indirect impacts are also good. Okay, to figure out your answer, Elena, let's go back to the requirement. So Elena is asking that can we link these goals with the fact that smartware is leaving another country, or should we connect these only with the home country situation? So it says that analyze the environment in which smartware operates and consider how this might impact the business model. And uh, these two paragraphs suggest that we are mainly talking about Noria. So Elena, it is going to be home country mainly. Because they're more prominent anyways. There's another exhibit which has, yeah, generally it says where it operates, but they mean to say home country of Noria because the paragraph is very clear cut, and also the external factors of Noria country are mainly mentioned in the introduction as well as in another exhibit. Okay, next paragraph is about governance arrangements. So Smartware has a balanced board of directors, most of whom have been with the company for more than a decade and whose responsibilities cover all of its core business functions. The 5 non-executive directors ensure that the board and the company remain fully compliant with Noria Code of Corporate Governance, a listing requirement for all companies on the Noria Stock Exchange. The NEDs, being part of unitary board, discharge their duties and responsibilities through a number of subcommittees with the expressed authority to challenge and scrutinize the executive members of the board. Now, there is no specific requirement on corporate governance, so we can leave this information as it is. We don't have to use every paragraph and every line in the answer. You know that, right? Business development. Since it was listed on Noria Stock Exchange 5 years ago, Smartware has enjoyed success. At that time, it had only 40 retail outlets in Noria, but since then, through careful and planned investment, the company has achieved sustained growth and become a substantial multinational business, over 100 outlets in Noria, and a similar total number of stores in several other European countries. All right. Industry analysts have remarked that Smartwear has never exploited e-commerce opportunities when there have been several new entrants in the market in the past few years who only sell online. The convenience and quality of service that these e-retailers provide have proven to be very appealing to many Smartwear's traditional customers who have shifted their patterns and loyalty. The absence of the detailed customer data have prevented Smartwear from mitigating the risks presented to its market share from e-commerce. So, do you think this paragraph is also relevant for any requirement? So, do you remember question number 1, part B was to assess risks and suggest the mitigating strategies? Yes, you can link it with the technological factor, Elena. In question number 1, part A. So, very, very intelligent point. So yes, there are actually two aspects. You can discuss this as a technological factor, that in the general retail sector, e-commerce is very much needed now. And it's very useful and very successful. And new e-retailers are coming in. And with that, you can also, save some costs, which can drive down the prices which the customer wants. And that is also one of our objectives, to meet the customer needs. Do you understand what I'm saying? So Fiza, you were confused. Can we also write this point that e-business is in full swing in e-retail sector? I'm talking about question number 1, part A. And companies, and it can be a threat because company is not opting for it. So if they won't opt for it, this will also impact the objective. Which objective? Of meeting the demands of the customer. This service for all customers, etc. So this is something the company needs to take care of, as well as, everyone please listen, as well as there are 2 risks in this paragraph which you can discuss for question number 1, part B. What are these 2 risks? Number 1, lack of e-commerce, the risk of e-commerce. So if we don't pick it up, if we don't use it, the e-retailers will take our market share away from us. And number 2 risk is the changing market dynamics or customer patterns. For example, they are now liking e-commerce better. So these customer patterns, if not taken care of, will lead to customer dissatisfaction and customer actually leaving you. So these are the 2 risks you can actually talk about separately. Maybe you can combine and discuss it in one go. It's up to you, but I can think of these 2 points from the risk management aspect as well. And thank you, Elena, for highlighting that this is also the technological factor for question number 1, part A. And of course, this will, if not taken care of, if these factors are not taken care of, they will take the company to strategic drift, isn't it? Yes, absolutely. You can use technological factors in both part A and B. But because your context is different, Kagan, the explanation is according to the need of the both the requirements. So you will get marks both in both situations and for both parts. It's very intelligent to use the same information for both requirements. It's a win-win. Lack of CDMS is a risk too. ICRA is right, but ICRA, they're already taking care of this new system, isn't it? So in long term or in future, this risk will eliminate. So we only discuss those risks which have a certain, which can create certain threats for the company in future. But CDSM is taken care of, isn't it? Yes, absolutely. So Fiza is asking, will we get marks if we use the same information in 2 different answers? So yes, you will get the marks in both answers. Why? Because the context is different. And does that make sense? Let me ask you this question. Is the explanation we just discussed, is it relevant? Does that sound logical? If yes, you will get the marks. Okay, exhibit 2. Exhibit 2 is a long exhibit and not a lot of information relevant to requirements, but some points are definitely relevant. So let's read these and cover these as well. Okay, Exhibit 2 is transcript of a recent SmartWear board meeting discussion which took place before the external consultant was appointed. Chairman said that the next item on the agenda is a review of our recent financial performance, which I know is of real concern to us all, particularly with the poor economic conditions we currently face in Noria and the weak performance of our operations in Centrum. This is despite a somewhat optimistic recent newspaper article report suggesting that things in Noria may improve next year. So I have asked the finance director to present to us the facts so that we can decide on the best way to move the business going forward. So because of this chairman's statement that the future might get better, we're now going to be talking about financial risk the company is currently facing. Is that okay? Let's not talk about financial risk in the risk question because this seems that it might get solved. So risk should be discussed if they have a like future consequence and a very clear-cut evidence is there. Just like e-commerce risk and customer pattern change, and if we are not able to keep up with that. Okay, finance director says, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is true that our current financial statements do not present the company in a particularly strong position. However, it is not all bad news. The profit levels have fallen primarily because our sales revenue has dropped significantly over the last year. However, we have managed to maintain tight cost control over our suppliers, so our gross profit margins are still holding well. Unfortunately, we are victims of our success in recent years, which means that we now have significant infrastructure costs and overheads to carry because we are much larger business than we were previously. So here I can kind of pick up a risk that the costs are increasing because of infrastructure and overheads, etc. So cost control may be a future problem for this business. And then if this cost control is a problem, this will affect the price and the company may not be able to offer the same low prices as it was originally doing. This may mean the failure of low cost strategy and a strategic risk, maybe. So what is can you suggest a mitigating action here? You guys please try and tell me if this is the risk we talk about in the exam. What do you think is the suggestion which you would like to write in the exam? Increasing sales, okay. Use new technology, more efficient technology, which leads to cost reduction. E-commerce is a way of reducing costs as well. Price fixing for overheads, etc. Excellent. Do proper budgeting, planning, and control of the cost. You guys are giving me impressive answers. And then assessing cost control better and managing the cost, maybe finding suppliers which are offering better prices, looking to go for more demand and economies of scale. So all of these are good suggestions, right? Okay, let's read the next part. So NED stood and got the attention of the finance director. I'm sorry to interrupt you. So they're kind of, indirectly fighting, not exactly fighting, but, counter arguments are going on. So NED stood up and said, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have something important to add at this point, and it may alter what you say next. One of our largest institutional investor contacted me because we have other mutual business interests, stating in very clear terms that we were dissatisfied with the level of returns that are currently getting on their investment in SmartWear. They have seen a significant fall in share price value and are concerned about whether there would be any proposed annual dividend. I would just like to provide them with assurance that these rumors are wrong and that they can expect our share price to rise again in the near future. Finance director says, thank you for bringing this matter to our attention, as I too have difficult conversation with number of investors over the past few weeks. I suspect that it might be from some of my discussion that they are worried about a suspension of the dividends. However, I'm afraid it is true, and it was going to be one of the proposals I was able to table later at this board meeting. With the current state of company finances, it would be negligent of me as finance director to recommend a dividend this year and deplete our cash reserves further. Also, in accordance with Noria Stock Exchange listing rules, the company has to issue a profit warning when forecast earning levels fall significantly below analyst expectations, which I regret they now do. This is likely to result in further downward adjustment in our share price, at least in the short term. NED interrupted again. The institutional investor further suggested to me that the strategic direction of the company is completely wrong and the smartware has become out of touch with its core customer. He suggested that this is the main reason why company has been losing sales to competition, and unless the board make radical changes, the situation may get far worse. I'm afraid that simply informing our investors that things are as bad as they thought will not reassure them about the board's ability to turn around the business. The absence of detailed and accurate information about customers and the lack of technology to systematically capture and analyze such information is putting smartware at a competitive disadvantage. Therefore, I propose that we engage the services of an external consultant to investigate what is currently wrong with smartware and to report back with proposals on how the business can return to the success. A fresh pair of eyes is always useful when a critical and objective appraisal of a difficult situation like this is required. All right, this concludes Exhibit 2. Now let's have a look at Exhibit 3. It looks promising. It is only 2 paragraphs. Okay, it's an exhibit, which is an article from Noria Herald, dated 21st February. More doom and gloom on the horizon. So having already suffered more than 3 years of economic misery, there is still no end in sight for the poor people of Noria. A recent report issued by Finance Minister has forecast negative economic growth, which in reality means further decline for Noria during the whole year and possibly beyond. Price inflation has been running as nearly 7% over a year, which is high for the Noria economy, but with a stagnating economy, the central bank will be reluctant to raise interest rates. So with more than 8% of adult population currently unemployed, an austerity program imposed by government because of reduced taxation revenue, the prospects in Noria still looks pretty bad. So it's an external factor, the same recession story, which was kind of given in the introduction as well. Yeah. So it's highlighting the external factors even more clearly. Next paragraph, the big question must be, are there any signs of economic recovery, which a reporter from Noria Herald asked the finance minister at a press briefing yesterday, to which his reply was, so if you are able to successfully survive 2009 period without any more important business going into liquidation or further heavy job losses, then it seems that economic recovery may start as early as next year. This is our expectation, but we have to wait and see. Okay, can we say that this is one of the ethical situation if we close down 20 stores in Noria? I think question number 2, part B, is about discussing the ethical issues. So one of the issue, if we close down the stores in Noria, is that there will be more unemployment. There will be job losses, and minister says that if there are more job losses, it will the country will not be able to come out of this economic problem. So can we also talk about it a little, picking it up from here maybe? Yeah. So a mix of external factors and a little economical or social factor, I would say. So you can talk about this while talking about unemployment issue. Exhibit 4. what does this exhibit look like? It's the comparative macroeconomic data for 3 countries, Noria and Southland and Central. So it's the comparative data of 3 countries. So where do you think it's going to be used? Quick answers, please. I mean, there was a question where we have to compare Southland with Noria and discuss the factors which are better in Southland as compared to Noria. Question number 2, part A, excellent. So we'll have to figure out the positive aspects as we discussed. So let's have a look at Southland and Noria specifically. I'm going to ignore Centrum. You can have a look at it later because my main concern is highlighting the positive aspects of Southland and comparing it with Noria. So first things, population. They have a population of 104,000,000 and Southland has a population of 5780. So as compared to Noria, Southland has a smaller population. I mean, I'm not saying it's a positive aspect, I'm just saying they have a smaller population. However, from this population, working age population is 3450. What percentage of total population it is? Can you tell me the percentage? So 3450,000 divided by 5780,000, more than 50%, right? It's exactly 60. So can I say majority population is working and unemployment rate is 6.2 current year. So majority population is working and employed. Do you agree with my point? Let me repeat. In Southland, majority of the population is working and most of the population is employed. Only 6.2% people are unemployed. Yeah, so I think this has a lot of good points of Southland over Noria. I agree with you, Elena, but I'm just giving you an idea of how to write a point in the exam. So most of the population is in employment, and this is one of the good factors in Southland. So the people are working. It's if you use the Porter's diamond model, this is one of the factor conditions that people are working for the country and working for the economy. So that makes the Southland a more attractive country as compared to Noria. And then talk about Noria, that working age population, I think it's a lower percentage as compared to Noria, and their unemployment rate is high. So Southland is better in this. And also one of the factors you can talk about is that, look at here, dominant business sectors in Southland includes transportation and shipping. So it's good. It's a good idea for Smartwear to ship and transport their goods and products very easily. However, in Noria, this is not an option. Their major industries are financial services, retail, defense, tourism, but transportation and infrastructure is not there, as well as technology development is like greater. I mean, it's the main industry in Southland and not here in Noria. So that is also one of the aspects you can discuss. Yeah, so related and supporting industries are there. So these kind of factors you will have to explore from this particular Exhibit, anything else which you could highlight, which is better in Southland than Noria? One of the factors which makes Southland a more attractive market, it was mentioned in the uh, paragraph above the requirement, is that companies earning more profits in Southland than in home market. So this is another factor which makes Southland a more attractive country, right? And lower inflation in Southland as compared to Noria, which means goods in Southland are cheaper than Noria, and the demand might be greater. Consumer debt is lower in Noria. That means, oh, consumer debt is lower in Southland, which means that yes, so you can discuss the debt burden here. So I think uh, just explore this exhibit one by one, and whatever you think is better in Southland, just talk about it and you will get your marks, right? But just explain your points a little bit. Annual earnings are high, yes, that too. Annual earnings in Southland are higher than Noria, so people are spending more money, hence we are earning more in Southland than in our home country. So it's a straight comparison, but what examiner is looking for is a little explanation of your points. Okay, exhibit 5 now. Yeah, so technology aspect we already discussed, that is for sure. And technology is something you can really expand on, that this is something which is very much needed in the retail sector. The customer preferences are changing, right? And they want technology and e-business aspect, which is better in Southland, of course. Yeah, so the introduction does tell us that Noria, political situation in Noria is not great, right? So you can also discuss that. And when political situation is not great, the support from government is also not great, right? So it appears to be better in Southland. So I think a lot of points, but choose your points carefully and explain them according to the marks. Okay, exhibit 5 now, guys. So exhibit 5 is executive summary of smartware internal audit report on supply chain management. Um, which requirement do you think will be relevant here? So this is straight away for question number 3. You're right. Okay, executive summary of smartware internal audit report on supply chain. Introduction. This report analyzes the effectiveness of the supply arrangements between smartware and its core suppliers, all of whom are based in countries in Southeast Asia. The report itself was requested by the audit committee when the information about alleged poor working practices among some suppliers was brought to its attention. However, the scope of this internal audit extended beyond this narrow social responsibility issue into broader operational and financial management aspect of smartware supply chain. So let's see what are the clear-cut problems. Supply chain management is particularly important to smartware because as a retailer, a very significant proportion of direct costs relate to inventory purchases, which in turn directly impacts on corporate profitability and investors' return. Appraisal of existing supplier performance. So we have to talk about the problems on the procurement side. So the supplier issues are all relevant, right? Okay, it says that most suppliers have been working with smartware for more than 5 years, and then have been no, and there have been no reported instances when purchase orders have not been completed on time or in full. This has led to a rather complacent attitude from buying department, who do not see the point in fixing something that isn't broken. So they are so used to not hearing to the problem that they have like kind of assumed that if there is no mention of a problem, we don't need to find out if there is any problem, right? So as a result, if no quality problems arise, the buyers rarely contact the suppliers, which led to a culture of carelessness. So can I highlight this culture of carelessness as a problem and how to explain it? You can pick up information from the paragraph, give your own analysis, give your own touch to it as well. Just don't copy paste and leave it alone. Okay, further, yeah, poor supplier management as well. So it's more supplier management, right? Okay, next it says that supply contracts are awarded for a period between 3 and 5 years with prices charged indexed to inflation. This means that prices rise annually by only a few percentage points, which is then built into Smartware's budgeting process. No effort is made by buying department during contract period to compare what prices the company is paying to its supplier compared with industry average or competition. So overall, the culture of carelessness in this paragraph is very much highlighted, not comparing the prices, not finding out if there are any problems with the supplier, you know. So what's your suggestion? How do we go about it? I need to hear it from everyone. Please make an effort and tell me how can this um, ineffectiveness of control system, the culture of carelessness in terms of not finding out evidences of problem and not, contact suppliers to figure out if there is anything wrong, and also this not comparing prices. So your answer needs to be properly explained, because there are 2 marks for explaining the problem and 2 marks for suggestions. So maybe you can give multiple suggestions. For one problem, you can give multiple suggestions in SBL, and with each new well-explained suggestions, the marks will increase. Can you please note it down somewhere that for one problem, you can give multiple suggestions, maybe for one problem, 2 suggestions, but not too many. So Kagan is suggesting that we can have shorter period of supplier contracts, so that the prices are redefined, and also the contractual terms could be renewed every time according to the change in situation. So that is one good suggestion. Review the supplier list regularly and think about changing those suppliers which are not keeping up with our demands in any way, right? So we have to be in touch. So can we have a mechanism? So maybe having a monthly uh, meeting with the supplier, if not face to face, then online, in order to make supplier feel that the company cares about the suppliers, and also to figure out if there are any problems in this business, right? Also for the price situation, we need to have a proper comparison after frequent intervals with the industry inflation rates, and then adjust those prices in our budgeting accordingly. Communicating the problems with supplier on time. So all of these. So some of the points can be merged together to be written in the answer, and you can, as I said earlier, can give 2 suggestions for one problem also, and they will give you added marks. Okay. Let me open the standard answer for this one and see how the examiner has actually discussed this particular requirement. This one is like especially important because it has 1 point has 4 marks here. 2 marks for discussing the problems and 2 marks for Suggestions. Okay, just a second. Okay. So cost controls are discussed here, in which the culture of carelessness is discussed. So cost needs to be controlled, right? Because this is the only way you will be able to offer lower prices. So the internal audit report claims that there is a culture of carelessness among smartwear buyers who do not engage closely with clothing suppliers. The result is that the cost of individual supply contracts is not reviewed compared against the industry average, right? And only negotiated when they come up for renewal after several years. This means that smartwear could be incurring avoidable increase in cost base and result erosion of gross margins. This is particularly damaging during the periods of economic difficulty and so on and so forth, right? So the suggestions examiner has given at the end, not with discussion of the problem. So recommendation control improvements are given here. They are about cost controls, uh, and setting out expectations and competencies needed, um, proactive in management of the supply contracts, as you guys have suggested too, right? So pretty much the same things, but of course the answer of the examiner is a little more fancy than a regular student answer, but they must be read in order to make more sense of the situation and for more ideas. Okay. Okay, let's continue reading from the exhibit. So the allegations that have been made about poor working conditions in some supplier factories have gone unchallenged. Okay, so there are some allegations that there are poor working conditions in some of our supplier factories and we are never able to challenge them. I mean, the smartwear management attitude is that they don't care what is going on in suppliers factories. Okay, I have a question here. Do you think it's the responsibility of smartwear to take care of the working conditions in the supply factories, because it's the ethical issue as well as can become strategic as well too, because the terms of the contracts normally have points like this included as well, that if I'm, you know, going into a contract with a supplier, I will tell the supplier that your factory conditions should be up to the mark. Yeah, so indirectly smartwear can be affected, and the paragraph does said that it's the part of the contractual obligation. Let's read the full part. Okay, so have gone unchallenged and even possibly unnoticed by the buying team. So that's negligence at buying team's part, don't you think so? If they are not even noticing it. If the supplier had been more effectively monitored, then the buying department would have identified a clear contravention of the general terms and conditions contained within all smartwear supply contracts. So it's the part of the contract. So that's more alarming, that why the our team, the buying team, is so negligent. So that's a major problem, because that can affect the reputation, that can take smartwear into some sort of litigation problem. These standard terms, the contract terms, are a reflection of smartwear's own corporate social responsibility commitment. So they have added in the contract terms their own social responsibility and integrity element. They'll have to keep up with it. However, as the buying department operates as a cost center, the buyer's primary motivation is always to keep costs down rather than monitor the ethical practices. So do you think you will be able to exaggerate or maybe make it a little dramatic by saying that it has both ethical as well as strategic implication? So this control system is absolutely not effective. The working condition situation. So what do you suggest? Yeah, and it's going against the contractual terms too, ICRA. So ICRA says that poor working conditions being unnoticed is affecting the social responsibility of smartwear, and it's going against the terms of the contracts too, where they have themselves promise to take care of it. So what do you guys suggest? So you will explain all the reputational and the litigation and the unethical situation. All of it will be discussed in the problem, but what is the solution? Because there are 2 marks to give the suggestions to improve this. What should we do? Should we say that we should remove all kinds of social responsibility demonstration from the contracts? Do you think it's a good answer? Don't accept any social responsibility. What do you think? Not at all. Examiner will say that what kind of a strategic leader suggests this kind of, points. Okay, so what we can do is we can go for proper monitoring system, having a proper mechanism to see if the terms and conditions of the contract are being met or not. Also, can we train and educate the buying team about the importance of these ethical matters as well and how they can affect the company? So trainings or education, then reviewing the terms of contracts, enforcing the terms of contracts, having a mechanism, going for audits. Somebody has to be responsible to figure out at regular intervals if this is taken care of or not. Maybe we can have like visits planned to the relevant suppliers' factories, again after certain intervals, to see if the working conditions in those factories are actually up to the mark or not. Can we do that? So this will kind of enforce this particular thing. Yeah, so having a proper committee or a team um, checking or overlooking whether it's taken care of or not. Oh, yeah, internal audit visits can be done. So all of the ideas are relevant and fine as long as you're able to explain them. Um, and if you're convinced that this will solve the problem for the company. Let's see what suggestions the examiner has given for this particular problem. So corporate social responsibility issue, right? So that's the second problem discussed here, and breach of supplier contract, poor working conditions, and all of it. Okay, you can read the answer later, but I'm more interested to show you. Okay, these are the suggestions, right? Sorry. So what we can do to get this issue solved? So the examiner says those suppliers who are in clear breach of their supply contract need to be formally advised that they must immediately bring the working conditions of factories up to minimum acceptable standards, or the contract will be cancelled. So it's a threat to supplier. If they don't keep up with the working conditions promised, their contract will be cancelled. I think this point was highlighted by Elena. Elena, was your point telling the same thing? That we should be talking to supplier, and if they do not keep up with our, sort of suggestion or advice, we should end up working with them. Okay, however, the remedial actions will need to be independently validated. So some of you suggested having a committee to overlook this, audit, internal audit visits, etc. So this is exactly the same thing. So even if you don't use these fancy terminology from here, you will still get marks. So communicating whatever is in your mind is important. And most of the times you will be surprised to see that examiner answers have the very same ideas. So it says that independent validation, that this might be achieved through smart peer auditors making periodic unannounced spot checks. Ikra, you said the same thing, isn't it? And then a concerted public relation effort will need to be made to reassure the buying and public and investor that SmartPeer has taken the necessary action to deal with the issue. This will require drafting a clear statement communicated on the most appropriate medium. So actually telling the public that we have taken care of it. That's also important to save the reputation which was initially damaged. Okay, last point. It is also important to stress the buying department that although prudent financial management of supply chain is key to business success, any unethical behavior presents a major risk. So this is what we discussed at the very beginning, that we have to educate our team. Yeah, some sort of training, education, that this is important for the company. So you see that examiner is suggesting more than one way to overcome this problem, and that way you get like 2 marks for suggestions only. Okay guys, let's complete this exhibit. Okay, the last paragraph of the exhibit shows or says reporting weakness. Okay, there is an expectation that any serious breach of supplier performance or unacceptable behavior would be reported to senior management so that an appropriate mired response could be made. However, the word serious is rather subjective, and it is entirely up to the buying department whether or not to escalate any matter. Consequently, if a serious issue is not raised, then buying and merchandising director would not be aware of any problem, and so he would not bring it to the attention of the board. So there are reporting issues that if the buying team doesn't think anything as serious, they will not bring it to the director's notice, and this will never reach the board of directors. How alarming is that? The absence of formalized regular reporting means that supply chain issues are only ever considered by the board of Smartwear when an exceptional event occurs, and this has not been the case over the past 2 years. Therefore, the board has been working on the assumption that supply chain management in the company is operating efficiently and effectively when this audit has shown this not to be the case. This represents a serious internal control weakness which needs to be rectified. Okay, suggestions. So the problem can be explained easily because it's written, everything is written here. Now, if you're copy pasting some lines, please give your own analysis to it. But suggestions, come on, 3, 4, 5, any number is welcome. Yeah, so there should be a proper, clear procedure to determine what is serious. Okay, what else? Excellent point by Kagan, defining the critical success factors and the KPIs. So they need to sit together, brainstorm, and just figure out what the important key performance indicators are, and then all the relevant points which are in the list should be highlighted to the buying and merchandising director. Educate the buying department about the importance of reporting issues. Excellent point. Buying department segregation of duties. So yes, exactly. Fiza has highlighted a point which I was also thinking, that there should be segregation of duties so that the problem can be communicated and sorted, and the decision, so basically the problem is not overlooked. And frankly, if there is a confusion about seriousness of a matter, it's better to bring it to the notice of the director rather than thinking that it might not be serious. So not taking a risk here, right? So reporting weaknesses can actually lead to poor decisions, and that is not affordable. Yeah, penalties in case of breach of contract on supplier side. Um, yeah, but that here we are discussing the reporting weakness, Sanya. So I think that's not a very relevant point. We're talking about the reporting weakness. That the problems from the supplier are not reported properly. So your suggestion should be around improving the overall reporting process. Okay. . And there should be some independent check on each stage of reporting. Again, some evidence is collected, and maybe, documentation can be checked to see if something important is missed on regular occasion. So yeah, a couple of points can be discussed. The rest you can read from the standard answer to maybe get some more ideas on this. So that was exhibit 5. Exhibit 6 now. Oh, a very good point. Fizza is suggesting that we can do a value chain analysis after a certain time period to see what are the problems with the value chain. Actually, it will be with the, supply chain you're talking about, right? Not the whole value chain, because the problem is with supplier reporting. So supply chain analysis can be done by an independent person or maybe by internal auditor and reported to board, right? Okay, exhibit 6, guys. Exhibit 6 says that it's the customer database management system, financial investment appraisal. So there is a question, there's one full requirement on this. Which requirement is relevant? It was question number 4 part B, but question number 4 part A also was about discussing the benefits of customer database management system, right? So I think exhibit 6 is for both, but of course this financial appraisal is for part B, where you have to discuss the evaluate this, and the professional skill for skepticism. So of course, whatever is right, we'll say it's right. Whatever is not right, we will highlight that it is not. Okay, now so NPV appraisal is given. The time periods are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. All figures are in millions, rounded off to $1,000,000. So let's do it, guys, quickly. And can you please make your own notes in your own words to better understand this? So the first cost given is investment in CDMS technology, and note 1 is relevant. So how much investment? $38 million. Note 1, total investment comprises initial capital outlay, sales tax on the purchase price recoverable through Norian tax authorities. So okay, initial capital outlay, sales tax makes sense. It has initial installation and system testing cost. So of course we are getting the new CDMS system technology in. So we need installations, we need testing, staff training on the new system is also included as the part of the whole package. And then it says 5-year maintenance and support contract. So 5-year maintenance support contract cost is also included in this $38 million. Do you have any doubts in these 5 elements of initial investment? Anything which is wrong? If not, then you can straight away say that everything is fine. Okay, so what about sales tax recoverable, Manish? What would you say? You think that it shouldn't be taken care of in the yeah, so maybe it is added and then subtracted. So what one point you can definitely talk about sales tax. Just a second. Yeah, so you can talk about that, whether the tax is correctly charged or refunded against the next net cash flows, and you need to check the tax rules regarding this type of investment. And there might be chances to claim allowances. So these have not been considered, but this is more about, the corporation tax. Okay, so sales tax, what else? Yeah, so most of you are highlighting that 5-year maintenance contract should not be taken into initial cost. Why? Because it's 5-year maintenance after the initial investment. So the cost will be paid in 5 years time, 20% each year. So it should be split, it should be spread over 5 years time, 20% every time. We don't know the exact figure of the maintenance cost. However, it shouldn't be here in year zero as an initial outflow. Rather, it should be spread over 5 years. So that's an absolute valid point, and if explained well, can get you 2 marks. Training costs are fine, Fiza. Training costs, you need to train staff on new system, and that's the part of the whole package you normally ask from the software developers. So I think training is fine. But yes, sales tax maybe, but 5-year maintenance contract is a very strong point, 2 marks worth if well explained. No, that we cannot just say. We will just highlight that this 5 years maintenance contract shouldn't be there in initial outflow. We don't need the extra cost, or maybe you can write it at the end that if we know the cost better, we could better be able to, exactly tell how much cost goes to each year. But overall concept needs to be delivered. Sorry, what about IRR? Initial investment is normally taken in present value terms, that if we invest $38 million right now and we get returns in other years, what is the NPV? So it's not about the timing of the cash flow. Honestly, that is going into too much detail. So let's stick to this 5-year maintenance contract problem for now. Okay. Now, operating cost is, let's talk about this. Operating cost. Operating cost is $2 million every year. Yes. Do you see a problem here with operating cost? There's no note given. However, the value is standard, $2 million every year. So is there a confusion? Is there a skepticism which we need to demonstrate? Do we have a doubt? Yes, this is this doesn't look very practical because it's same each year, and at the same time this country is facing recession and inflation can go really high. So when there is inflation, how can we expect the cost to remain same? Exactly, inflation and keeping the cost same every year, that is a little strange. So we'll show our skepticism that this looks not very normal. So this needs to be further investigated and checked. Similarly, about additional contribution, it remains same. What about additional contribution? Note 2. It is estimated that CTMS will directly generate additional contribution from new and retained customer. Okay, so this contribution remains same over the years. So if there are new customers coming in, it is assumed that additional contribution should increase over the years. Normally, this is how it happened. It normally happens like that. It keeps on increasing over the years, but this is again very same every year, kind of is not very normal. Yeah, and the value is same over the year. This is kind of making me uncomfortable that there is, there has to be a trend in the increase in contribution somehow. Okay, interest payable on loan, note 3, $3 million every year. So a new loan of 38 million will be taken out to finance the project with interest payable at 8%. So is there any confusion over this, or this looks fine? Interest payable on loan. Now the people with strong financial management concepts will definitely highlight this problem. So interest payable on loan is given as a cash outflow in NPV pro forma. No, not the calculation mistake. It's something else. So I think I have so far couple of correct answers. I'm so proud of you because I wasn't expecting a lot of students saying that. Interest payable on loan should not be included as a cash flow in investment appraisal. Why? Because it is already included in the calculation of weighted average cost of capital. Excellent. I'm really happy right now because I was thinking that this might not be a known concept, or it's so, the question information is so quick that sometimes you're not even able to figure out that, oh, this is also a problem. So yes, that's a very good point. Okay, then you have net cash flow, then you have corporation tax. So you can talk about corporation tax. That is the tax correctly calculated? Are there any capital allowances that can be highlighted and that can be claimed? So that can be checked with the country's tax rules. So a comment can be made on corporation tax. This is what I'm saying. Then you have discount factor, guys. What about discount factor? 10%. Note 4 is relevant. So the SmartWear weighted average cost of capital of 10% is used as the project discount factor. So is it a good idea to use weighted average cost of capital as discount factor of projects? What do you guys have to say? Is WACC a good discount rate? WACC is the best discount rate a company can use. So we cannot question the discount rate in this question at all, because WACC is the best discount rate you can use, so that it is fine. Also, there is one more thing I want to tell you, that the NPV here is $7 million. It's a big NPV value. So we can't even say that discount rate might be artificially set low to manipulate NPV, because the NPV is so huge that even a little manipulation and discount rate cannot make the NPV negative. It's going to be a very weak point if we write it. So I think everything looks pretty fine. Cost of capital is fine. Now, in order to demonstrate skepticism, you don't have to write negative points. So for example, here we are saying that this is a perfect cost of capital they have used. No problems here. Right? Yeah, because it accounts risk. So I think pretty much all points are covered, but there's one more thing you can talk about in questions like this, that for these kind of investments, there might be some working capital that needs to be injected throughout the years. So there's no mention of working capital injection in any of the given years. So maybe that is needed. So we are showing skepticism. So comments like this can work too. So once you implement this system, you might need additional working capital. Oh yes, sensitivity is always welcome. Sensitivity analysis. So you can add 1 point on that to show off your knowledge, and the examiner will like it. You may get 1 mark or maybe half a mark to show the sensitivity, and if you well explain it, maybe more than 1 mark. So yeah, I think you're quite comfortable with this kind of analysis. So yesterday we did an analysis of PID, and today we did analysis of NPV. So if you are okay with these 2 performers given by other people and you're critically evaluating it, anything else coming in your real exam, you can handle that too. But do consider positive, negative aspects both. I mean, whatever is right, say that it is right. And whatever is wrong, or you are not comfortable about it, say it. show your skepticism in your answer. Sorry, how can we give reference if some working done in spreadsheet? Oh, so do you think that there is a lot of calculations you're going to do for this particular question? I mean, there are not any additional calculations you will be making here. Maybe sensitivity analysis. So I think if there is just one or two quick calculations, you might as well do them on calculator and just show the figures rather than doing them on spreadsheet and referring them. Otherwise, you can write in the bracket as calculated in the spreadsheet document. Yeah, Vishal, is that clear? All right, guys, this is the end of all the exhibits. Now let's take a quick 10 minutes break here, and then we'll come back and we'll quickly jot down some of the points for some of the requirements to, kind of take the case study towards the end. But I think a lot of things have already been discussed on the exhibits, so it might not take a long time. You can ask your questions at the end. Okay, so a 10 minutes break, and then we'll jot down the points. Thank you very much. All right, can we start? So very quick summary of all the requirements. So first task was to discuss the external factors and discuss the impact on mission and objectives. 5 points were needed. Briefing paper was the document or format. So here in this question, you can use pestle analysis, maybe SWOT analysis, but the key is that connected with the objectives of the company and discuss the impact of these factors on the company as we discussed for a couple of points. The second part was to assess the risk and suggest mitigating strategies, and evaluation skill was there. 5 risks were to be discussed in the same briefing paper. So what 5 risks? So the first risk we discussed was the risk of not going and pursuing the technology aspect, e-business. What's the suggestion? That company needs to invest in e-business technologies to keep up with the need of the time and technology, and to save some costs as well, right? Then the other risk we discussed was the changing market conditions, especially in terms of customers preferences, choices, which are continuously changing. Now they are more inclined towards even lower prices, as well as looking for better platform, an online platform. Then there was a strategic risk we discussed, that low cost strategy might fail if they're not able to keep up with cost control, right? And so these were the 3 risks we discussed, but a fourth and a fifth one we need to discuss. So company has suppliers outside country in low cost economies. So you can discuss the ethical and reputational issue if we are not paying the fair wages in these countries or doing any unethical sort of thing, for example, child labor, etc. That can be discussed also. You can discuss about that supplier being so far away. If there are any changes needed to the product, the communication becomes a problem. So over reliance on foreign suppliers is kind of a risk. And also if there is a consignment and there's a problem in terms of quality or design of our clothes, then taking that consignment back to the supplier, fixing it and coming back will take a lot of time, and meanwhile the customer preference might have changed again, right? So having foreign suppliers may be a low cost option, but a lot of problems in terms of lead times and fixing the quality issues on time. So that you can discuss. Having ethical problems or ethical risks with supplier because they're based in low cost economy can be taken as a separate point. Okay. Okay, Kagan is asking that can we discuss the macroeconomic conditions, the external factor risk in here? So preferably not, Kagan. Why? Because I have discussed that in question number 1 part A, like very comprehensively and as threats. So it's kind of become the same thing. And because we have other things to talk about, so why not talk about them? Okay, the supplier over reliance on foreign suppliers, the operational risk, right? So you can name it operational risk, you can name it over reliance on external supplier outside the country or foreign supplier. And yes, Akis is absolutely right. Is there a foreign exchange risk too? Because we are paying in another currency. So if there is an adverse movement of smartware or Norian currency against that currency, there will be a cost burden on the company. So what's the suggestion for this? I mean, what should we do to mitigate this risk? Hedging. And can you name some of the tools of hedging? Forward contracts, options, etc. Yeah, it's excellent. So name these options. Don't start explaining all these particular options available, but name them at least, just to demonstrate a little more knowledge and commercial acumen. Okay, then another risk which can be discussed here is the risk of competition. The competition is getting more and more intense, and if we are not able to keep up with customer needs and demands, we might be left behind. We might lose market share, and this might lead to the end of the company, which is a big business risk. So competition is increasing because more and more people are now being price conscious. At the market is growing, and at the same time, there are e-retailers coming in. So the competition is getting intense, and there are so many sources of it. So you can talk about that as well. So these are the possible risks I can think of right now. There might be more depending on how you want to explain it. You do know that there is not one standard answer for SBL questions, right? Anything which is logical, makes sense according to the requirement, can get you marks. Okay, so task 2 was factors in Southland market which make the company successful as compared to Noria. I would re-emphasize by saying that whenever you are discussing the positive aspects of Southland, please do a comparison with Norian market. I'm more interested to talk about the ethical and strategic implementation in B part for shop closure, because we had to demonstrate skepticism. So for example, um, change in perception of the company as it is closing down, that they are divesting. So, you know, the size and the scope of the company and the perception overall will change. That's a strategic issue, right? Then there was this mention of a point from one of the students in the session. I don't remember the name. That company will be able to increase some profitability because the cost savings are there. So yes, that's a strategic issue. This is strategic. This is strategic. Another strategic is that when you have free financial resources from this investment, your resources will be free. You can invest them in better opportunities. So, you know, here we are discussing the positive strategic things and negative too. So whatever we can find. Then having a social impact plus impact on employees, unemployment, that is an ethical issue, right? What else? Legal and regulatory issue, if there are redundancy um, costs and redundancy legal issues. So that, then at the same time, can we say that there might be some compliance issue? So when you are asking people to leave, when you are closing down the business, there might be some compliance issues which we'll have to take care of, and they can be strategic in nature. So I think the main ethical issue is the employees and social footprint, etc. The rest of them are more strategic in nature, but that's all right. If you talk about these two ethical and the rest strategic issues, your answer will be considered as a balanced answer. Any questions here or anything else we want to add? Yeah, redundancies and the legal issue, especially regarding redundancy, is going to be a strategic issue. And can I say ethical issues are actually strategic in nature? I mean, there's a very direct connection between ethical and strategic issue, but I just wanted to show you that when examiner is highlighting two different words, you should be talking about both. You don't have to write that this is an ethical issue or this is a strategic issue. You don't have to mention that, but just cover both aspects. Is that clear to everyone? Next, task 3, control weaknesses, recommendations. The skill was commercial acumen, 3 to 4 points were needed, and the format of memorandum was required. Yep. So there were 3 issues. Cost control. I think they were very clear in the exhibit. We don't even have to write it. Then there was this corporate social responsibility issue at the supplier's factory, the working conditions. And then there was the reporting and suppliers relationship issue. And one thing which we can remember is that we can give multiple suggestions for one problem if the points are less and the marks to get are more. It's a very good exam technique because there were 12 marks and there were 3 problems only, so we can give multiple suggestions to cover up the marks. Yeah, so please note it down, keep it in mind for the other aspects of syllabus as well where you have to give suggestions. So for example, there is a topic where you have to suggest improvements to the processes, or maybe suggestions to improve value chain, not only controls suggestions. Other areas of syllabus might be asking to give suggestions, right? Okay, I'm telling Kagan that you can give multiple suggestions for one problem in order to get extra credit or score. Because in this question, there are 12 marks to get and there are only 3 problems to discuss. So what we can do is for one problem, we can kind of give 2 suggestions per problem, so double the marks. But we'll have to explain each suggestion carefully. Now, what is the benefit of each one of it? Clear? Okay. So task 4 was the benefits of CDMS. So let's jot down some of the benefits for the company. So can I say that we will be able to engage more effectively with the customers? We have a proper system because current system is very basic. Then we can get benefits of big data and data analytics. If we have a sophisticated system which has proper information and analysis can be done through it. It can help with more data security. It can help with a more effective marketing plus sales strategy. And if you have a proper system, employees can work from anywhere, maybe from home as well, right? So this is a new added benefit you can discuss. Yeah, so you don't need to have a proper geographical location. That's what I was talking about. More flexibility. All right, so for NPV analysis, we have discussed quite a couple of points using Exhibit 6. I hope they were all clear. Now, as I suggested earlier as well, you have to read the standard answers properly and comprehensively and examiner report to understand, make sense of the case study more, and to avoid those mistakes which were made by the students of this attempt. So you can get similar kind of questions, and examiner reports are very, very helpful. So you keep on doing them and they will help you. Okay, now let's talk about the benefits of integrated thinking through a slide. So what are the different benefits of integrated thinking? Very, very quick list. So the integrated thinking provides the holistic view, bigger picture. This I have copied from the question. So we'll give a holistic perspective or view. This will consider short-term aspects of performance as well as long-term aspects. Also, it will tell how company is actually creating value, not just financial return, but how it is creating value for society, for environment, for employees. So you can discuss all of these factors. Then overall, when there is integrated thinking, do you think it will bring in the improved reputation benefits in the eyes of investors and government and all relevant stakeholders. Will be you will be better able to connect with stakeholders. Yeah, so you will the stakeholders will feel more connected with the company when they are talking about the stakeholders of the society. And this can lead, integrated thinking can lead sustainable, can lead to sustainable competitive advantage also, because all non-financial aspects are also considered in this integrated thinking and not just short-term profitability. Yeah, so these are some of the benefits. So you can write these points like this on the slide, but for explanation, you'll have to use the speaker notes. And the second part was to discuss how corporate reporting provides more useful information by highlighting 6 capitals. So what are the 6 capitals, guys? The financial capital, the intellectual, the manufactured, the human, the social, the natural capital. So when you are explaining these points, just add examples from the smartware situation for financial, intellectual capital, etc. to explain your points. And I think this is it from my side. Now the floor is open for questions, but let me explain the homework for you again. Read the answers with the marking scheme and read the examiner report. And if you haven't covered yesterday's answer and examiner's report, please do that. Come prepared so that each day you're gaining something and improving one step, right? Okay, tomorrow we are going to be attempting another past exam from March 20 exam attempt, and a very different case study, a lot of emphasis on governance and change management, and some specific unique discussion points from the questions information. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. So that's the plan for tomorrow. Now, if you have any questions, please let me know through the chat window. Oh, very good question, Elena. So Elena is asking that in regards of risk, do we have to name the risk as strategic, financial, foreign, reputation, or can we just, use the language of the question to explain the risk? So you do not 100% with guarantee, I'm telling you that you do not have to name the risk. But if you think that you can name it very easily, then do it. Otherwise, no. You don't have to, because for one risk you can have a lot of different names for it. Is that okay, Elena? So basically, naming a particular risk is not getting us marks. It's the assessment, how the risk is going to impact the company. That is where you get the marks from. All right, any further questions? Do you recommend some important topics to review such there is a high prob? I will say cover the entire syllabus, because there are no important topics. It's an integrated case study, so anything can be tested, but the new additions to syllabus are especially important because they're not tested so far. Artificial intelligence, the ethical issues with it, cover it from the technical article, maybe risk assurance, but other than that, try covering the entire syllabus. Read from the notes or from the textbook, and try to solve 1 or 2 mock exams before the exam and get the feedback of tutor on it. So whoever is a relevant tutor for you in your college or any approved learning provider you're working with. So feedback on technical marks and professional skills marks is very important, and try to solve the mocks in exam conditions with exam timing, 4 hours. Okay. Um, in one of the previous attempts, there was a question on pestle, and the examiner gave pestle in case study already. Asad, can you please tell me which exam attempt it is so that I could be more specific in answering this? Hmm. Fiza, are you talking about reading the notes or the textbook? Yeah, so but regardless, of course, the integrated case study is very specific to the current scenario and the current situation and practical aspects. So I agree with you that most of the time those concepts might not be directly tested, but we should be familiar at least with all the topics and all the syllabus areas because we cannot take this risk. Is that okay, Fiza? December 20. Okay, but December 20 exam attempt is not available. So I can't exactly say how it was tested. Can you give me a little detail on it? Maybe then I could tell you. Yeah, so main thing to practice for are the questions, of course, no doubt about it. But yes, try to cover the book or notes once already, maybe in next get to the practice question straight away because through case studies you revise some concepts, isn't it? Yeah, you can email us. That's a very good idea. And what is risk assurance? Akis is asking. So Akis, I would very quickly tell you what is risk assurance. So you know the risk mechanisms which can be there in one company. So for a smaller company, it might be very simple processes. And in a multinational, let's say there might be a risk committee and risk department properly managing the risks of the company and a proper risk management process. Yes? So different companies have different mechanisms and arrangements for managing the risks. So risk assurance is that getting the assurance that all these activities on risk management, are they effective? So getting this assurance is covered by the concept of risk assurance. So there are so many sources of getting the assurances whether this risk management is effective and working properly or not. So the first line of defense or the first assurance comes from the ability of the management to have the system of controls, to have control activities. The second line of defense or the second assurance come from management having a control system. So having the controls and then monitoring the control. So the first line of defense is having the controls in place by management, by directors. The second line of defense or second assurance line is to have monitoring of those controls. The third line of defense or third assurance, even more better assurance, comes from internal audit reviews. And the fourth and last line of defense or the source of assurance is external audit. So that's what the concept is. Very quickly told, but actually this is the concept. So do read it from the notes I shared on day one. And yes, the ACCA person has shared a link also. Let me share it again, where all the documents are available from day one. I think is the link even there? All handouts, yes. So let me copy and send it in the chat window. Just okay. Just a second, guys. I think I'm not able to copy, but just a second. Let me see if I could send you the link. I think the ACCA relevant person shared the relevant link to all the handouts for the day. If you don't have the access to them, please do ask it from the relevant technical person, because I can't seem to copy it in the chat window, and I think they have copied it again. Yep. And for recording, Fiza, you have got the link, the YouTube channel link. Yes, they are available at this link. Yeah, so keys, absolutely. So to make sure that the risk management is effective and working, these 4 line of defenses kind of provides you assurance, and this can overall increase the trust of stakeholders on the risk management processes of the company. Is that clear, Akis and the rest of the people who wanted to know about it? The risk assurance. It's easy. It's, you know, not very difficult, but artificial intelligence needs to be covered through technical article. I shared that one too, but it's also available on ACCA website. Just read it and focus on the downsides or the ethical issues more. Okay. So I'm assuming there are no more questions for now. So shall we end the session already? All right, great. Thank you very much, everyone, for today. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care and goodbye. Do come prepared for the answers and examiner reports of this case study, though. Take care. Goodbye. Thank you.